Alright, so firstly, I met George 3.5 years ago, about halfway through first year uni. George stood out like a thorn in the balls. Wearing bright fluoro clothing and bright clicks that could light up a future music festival. And it suits him. Just like how corduroy trousers suits a geography teacher. And not to mention being a cue ball at one stage. What was that all about? But once I got to know him past all the fluoro clothing, he turned out to be an awesome guy. And I realised that I finally met someone who was on the same page as I was. By that I mean we had one massive thing in common. Gym. And soon enough later, this group grew and the hectics were born. I have to admit there are some aspects about George that makes him unique to everyone else, such as his microphone voice. I'm sure all of you have noticed this, that George has this unique ability to activate multiple vocal cords and speak so loudly it can be heard across cities. Though it does come in handy, no matter where we are, clubs, music festivals, if I've lost George, I can always rely on him to merely speak. And I will follow the voice. However, there's always a downside. George has a knack of saying the most inappropriate things, physically the most inappropriate times. And combined with the microphone voice, has got the potential to get us into serious trouble. For example, one time at the gym, George was fiercely expressing how he disliked these big, inked up tattooed guys at the gym who think they're all that. And of course, right behind him was a massive tattoo. On another occasion, we were eating in the food court and I was putting my rubbish in the bin. George is like, "Man, just leave it. That's what the cleaners are for." Of course, a cleaner is centimetres behind him. I have to admit, these golden moments make George who he is. I'm sure all of you have been out with George at one stage on a city escapade, and know that when you're with George, you're going to have a good night. Mostly all of my best nights have been out with him, and you can be assured something hectically funny is going to go down. Back in first year uni, I remember George attempting to pick up a girl at Stockies. This involved going up to her on the dance floor, packed tighter, and a boat full of illegal immigrants. And shuffling so profusely, and I'm talking about the most chronic shuffling I've ever seen. Like a man who's been overdosed on Albuterol and speed. I mean, if you can imagine a baboon doused in itching powder, then, and only then, can you imagine what I saw. I'm assuming this was an attempt to outperform all the other guys. His shuffling intensity proved to be too much for George, and he fell. Naturally, I fell as well, but out of laughter. But what I'm getting at is George is not only a naturally entertaining person who always has a funny story to tell, but possesses great friend qualities. Underneath the exterior funny George, he's someone who really does care about his friends and will go all out if business comes to business. And know that I can always talk to this guy if I need to about anything, good or bad, and he's always got my back. And I would not hesitate to tell him anything. And he's one of my closest friends that I have. Hope you have a good night.